In Matthew chapter 24, Jesus leaves the temple and his disciples are admiring all the fancy buildings. Jesus tells them that the temple will be destroyed one day and not one stone will be left on another. They go to the Mount of Olives and the disciples ask him when all of this is going to happen. They also ask him, what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? Jesus first warns them about things that would happen that should not be interpreted as signs. Some would claim to be the Christ. It was a general belief that if the Jewish Messiah arrived in Jerusalem, it would mean that the kingdom of heaven was imminent. And there would also be wars and rumors of wars. Then Jesus identifies the beginnings of birth pains, a metaphor for false alarm. Nations rising up against nations, and kingdoms against kingdoms, earthquakes, famines, pestilence, fearful events. Next, he describes more birth pains which would lead to the coming kingdom. False prophets, apostasy, persecution of the followers of Jesus, the spread of Jesus' message, the gospel, around the world. Jesus then warns the disciples about the abomination of desolation standing where it does not belong. The Gospels of Matthew and Mark add, "Let the reader understand." This is generally considered to be a reference to two passages from the book of Daniel. One view, futurism, is that the future Jesus predicted is the unfolding of events from trends that are already at work in contemporary human society. Another prophetic view, preterism, is that all of these predictions were fulfilled by the time Jerusalem fell in AD 70. A key issue in Jesus' discussion concerns the illustration of the fig tree and other trees. This serves to balance the two parts of the discussion, the first part being the answer to the first question concerning the destruction of the temple, and the second part being the answer to the question of Jesus' return at the end of the world. Hence, concerning the first, he says that this generation would see the fulfillment, whereas the second, no man knows. Not even Jesus himself knows the day of his return, so everyone must be ready. Jesus then lays out several quick parables to provide a better understanding of his future coming. All of these parables point to the final judgment, and there's definitely been some misconceptions about all of them. First parable, Noah. It will be like the days before the flood when people just carried on with their lives right up until they were destroyed by the waters because they didn't know what was coming. Second parable, the field and the mill. 2 men will be in the field. One will be taken and the other left. 2 women will be grinding with a hand mill. One will be taken and the other left. Now, since this parable is about the coming judgment, it makes more sense that the one taken is the one being judged negatively, not positively. Often Christians have reversed the two, saying the one taken is the one being raptured up to God. However, this is more likely referring to the judgment of that person in a negative sense. Third parable, the thief. If people knew when this was going to happen, they would be like a man who stays up to catch a thief he knows is coming to rob his house. But they don't, so they won't. Fourth parable, the servant. It will be good for the servant who does his master's will while he is away, but bad for the servant who decides to abuse his fellow servants and get drunk because he thinks his master won't be back anytime soon. Jesus adds, he will cut him to pieces and assign him a place with the hypocrites, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Fifth parable, 10 virgins. It will be like 10 virgins who take their lamps to go meet the bridegroom, but half of them don't bring enough oil to keep their lamps lit. The bridegroom takes his time and shows up at midnight. The smart virgins use their extra oil to light their lamps, but the dumb ones have run out and have to go out and try to buy some more in the middle of the night and get locked out. They bang on the door, but the groom doesn't recognize them. It's significant that all of the virgins in this parable fall asleep, both the wise ones and the dumb ones. The fact that they fell asleep isn't the issue, and most likely the sleep is referring to death, and the coming of the groom is the resurrection of the dead and the final judgment. Sixth parable, the talents. Before going on a trip, a man leaves his 3 servants in charge of 1, 2, and 5 talents of gold, respectively. The men with the 5 and the 2 went to work right away and doubled their amounts, but the man with the 1 buried the money in the ground and did nothing. When the boss got home, he rewarded the first 2 men and gave them even more responsibilities, but he punished the one who buried his money, saying that the least he could have done was deposited it in the bank to earn interest. The man excuses himself, saying he did it because his boss is a hard man. The boss then gives the 1 talent to the man who doubled the 5 talents, and he throws the lazy servant out into the darkness, where there is weeping and gnashing of teeth. Seventh parable, the sheep and the goats. It will be like a shepherd separating sheep from goats. Sheep go to the right and goats go to the left. Goats don't pay attention to their master's voice, but sheep recognize it and follow it. In the same way, when the Son of Man comes with his angels, he will gather all the nations before him, and say to the ones on his right, 'Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me.' And then they will be confused because they won't remember seeing Jesus in need. And he will tell them that whatever they did for the least person, they did for him. And he will say to those on his left, 'Depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you did not invite me in. I needed clothes, and you did not clothe me. I was sick and in prison, and you did not look after me.' And they will also be confused because they won't remember seeing Jesus in need. And he also says to them that whatever they didn't do for the least person, they didn't do for him." Again, all of these parables refer to readiness. Everyone must be ready for the final coming of the kingdom, the return of Jesus.